This killer's story begins in 1956. Aileen Wuornos was born on the 29th of February in Rochester, Michigan. Her mother was just 16 years old when she gave birth and was unable to raise her.
By March 1960, when Eileen's just 4, she's formally adopted by her mother's parents, her grandparents.
She had a really brutal upbringing with them, so she was regularly beaten by her grandfather. There were allegations of incest within the family.
Her grandfather had a home-built sauna in his house, and if he wanted to punish her for doing something he didn't like, he'd lock her in the sauna and crank up the heat and just let her stay in there.
Eileen's abusive childhood sent her on a downward spiral and fueled her hatred of men.
This was somebody who was constantly in fear. Wuornos' grandfather allegedly repeatedly said to her that she was worthless, that she should never have been born, that she was a mistake. So she's learning that she can't trust anyone, that she can't depend upon anybody. And this is very, very dangerous.
Aileen learned early to use any means available to survive.
Before she got to her teen years, she was known as a cigarette bandit. She would trade sexual favors for packs of cigarettes.
It's said that from around age 11, she's using her body as something to trade, as a tool. And this kind of disconnection from her emotions is something that is going to have a significant impact on the rest of her life.
Her behavior left her pregnant, aged 14.
Now, on the orders of her grandfather, that baby is adopted. It's taken away from her. And this is just reinforcing those ideas that she already has, that those who are supposed to love me hurt me, that I am worthless, that I'm not deserving of love.
Shortly after she was forced to give up her child, Aileen was hit by another tragedy.
Her grandmother dies of liver failure, having been quite a heavy drinker for many years. Her grandfather actually blames her for her grandmother's death.
Her grandfather was furious and threw Wuornos out of the house.
Aged just 15, Wuornos was left homeless. Alone, her only option was to live in the woods at the end of their street.
She lives a very feral existence, sleeping in an old car, and she's still a child at this point. And this is incredibly damaging. There is absolutely nobody there for her. She is literally just taking each day as it comes. She's making sure that she has enough to eat. She is basically using her body as she's used it before. She's learning that life is full of rejection, it's full of pain, it's full of fear, and that she really needs to hurt others before they get the chance to hurt her.
One person she was still close to was her brother Keith. Just 11 months older than Aileen, the rumor was that their relationship was an unnatural one.
There were allegations of incest. School friends of Keith said that they'd witnessed these things going on. So she felt a connection, but it was a very pathological and a very toxic one.
In 1986, Wuornos met a woman who changed her life.
When she met Tyree, what Aileen thought, this is my soulmate. This is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, and I will do anything for this girl.
The owner of the Last Resort bar in Daytona Beach, Al Bulling, remembers Wuornos well, who was a regular customer.
She used to come in here. She'd shoot pool here with her girlfriend Ty. She was a little mouthy with Aileen. If she needed a beer, she'd sit on a pool table and kind of demand her get her another beer or whatever.
Having blown her inheritance, Wuornos took it upon herself to raise the money the two needed to live.
Aileen would go out and prostitute to make money so that she could buy things for Tyrea. She would want to take care of her and make sure she was happy and never want to leave her. And I think that was what it boiled down to.
Daytona Beach, Florida, November the 30th, 1989. 33-year-old Aileen Wuornos was now living with lover Tyrea Moore and was indulging in a host of petty crimes to maintain their extravagant lifestyle. The frequency of the crimes and the force Wuornos used to enact them was increasing. It all came to a head the night she was picked up by 51-year-old Richard Mallory.
Richard Mallory owned an electrical repair shop, and he'd been divorced for many years, and he didn't make any secret of the fact that he did enjoy engaging in the services of sex workers.
He picked her up hitchhiking, they were drinking, they were hanging out, as it were, and one thing led to another, some type of violent encounter where she ended up killing him. She shot him 4 times with a 9-shot revolver. She took a couple of pieces of property that belonged to him, a camera and a radar detector, and she pawned them. She made some money off of the deal.
When Richard Mallory's body was found 2 weeks after he was killed, there was no evidence to clarify what sparked her rage.
His body was found, it was very decomposed. Basically, all we have to work with is what we have found at the crime scene, the physical evidence and the trace evidence, etc. We do know that he was shot multiple times and his victim was found in a secluded area right outside the city of Daytona.
What triggered Wuornos to kill for the first time remains a mystery. But what is certain is that the murder of Richard Mallory was the beginning of a dark and deadly chapter.
For her entire life, Wuornos has been victimised by men. She's been abused by them. But now she's turned the tables. She's the one that's in control, and she's very much enjoying it because she's learned from a very early age that violence equals power, and she really is on quite a high at this point.
Taking one life once wasn't enough. 6 months later, Wuornos struck again.
There's usually what they call a brief cooling off period, and this absolutely applied here. A large part of it was due to her paranoia and her fear of getting caught. And when she came back from that brief cooling off period, now she was the predator. She was looking for who she was going to kill next.
She's somebody who's being proactive. She's seeking out victims, she's getting access to them, she has an opportunity to harm them, and she takes that opportunity.
These men, they were all white males. They were all traveling the roads alone. They were middle-aged, 40 to 65.
On May the 19th, 1990, she was picked up on the I-75 highway by a 43-year-old machine operator, David Spears. When they pulled over and he began to undress, she slipped out of the passenger side door, walked around to the driver's side, aimed and fired. With the task force secretly stationed outside, on January the 9th, 1991, Mike Joyner made his move.
We were in the bar, we were dancing, and I had a lot of money, and that's what she was interested in. And she wanted to know if I wanted to go out one night and party. And I told her, I said, yeah, I'd love to go out, but I said, you stink. You ain't had a bath. And I don't know when, and I said, I stink. And I said, I ain't doing that. I'll go get a motel room and we'll clean up, but I ain't going out with no stinking ass woman.
Mike told Wuornos to wait for him at the bar while he went to get his room key. Instead, he met with a task force outside.
And I meet with my outside people and tell them, you know, we make a plan because we knew what she had in mind. The exact words I told them was, piss on the fire and call in the dogs. This hunt's over with. This is her. And I'm not going off with her because I'm not going to be the next victim.
Mike returned to the bar with a motel key and showed it to Wuornos. He then waited for her to make the next move.
Could I get worried about it? No, she wasn't going to kill me in the bar. So I wasn't, you know, I really wasn't worried about it, not at that point. I just went and got another beer and said, just whenever you get ready, I'm ready to go, let's go.
A little while later, Wuornos and the undercover cop walked out of the bar. The owner of the last resort, Al Bulling, was an eyewitness to what happened next.
They were just sitting at the bar drinking, you know. They didn't want to arrest her in the bar or anything because they didn't know what she had or didn't want nobody else getting hurt. So they waited for her to walk out the door As soon as they hit the door, that's when they arrested her.
Wuornos was bundled into a car and taken away. The task force had successfully executed the arrest safely.
I wasn't worried about my safety because I had the best backup in the world.
It was a relief. I think that's the best way to describe it, as a relief.
The next day, investigators managed to track down Wuornos' partner, Tyria Moore, in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
And they said to her, let's make a deal. If you can provide evidence, if you can help us convict Aileen Wuornos, then we will give you immunity from prosecution. So I think this was a very, very tempting offer.
Tyria agreed to call Aileen and let the police record their conversations.
Lee, they're coming after me. I know they are.
No, they're not.
What?
I'm not going to go to jail or anything. Listen, if I have to confess, I will.
Okay. Yes. Why the hell did you do this? Why did you do this?
Listen, Ty.
What?
I'll probably never be able to see you.
Yes.
I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will.
Okay.
I love you.
No. We'll do it now. Get it over with.
Right this very moment?
Yes. Get it over with.
All right.
The same month she was arrested, Aileen Wuornos fully confessed to the 7 murders.